Holly and I decided that we would do the open-top bus tour in Athens. So welcome to our guide to the Athens open-top bus tour. We use city sightseeing buses, but there is another company as well who you'll see later on. And we found that they were very reliable. We booked online, but the tickets are €20 for adults and €8 for children. So be certain you want to go. It stops at 15 sites around the centre of Athens, and there are two other routes that you can do as well with this company. There's the Piraeus route, and there's also the Riviera route, which takes you along Glyfada. But I can't comment on those. I haven't done them. What I would say is that one bus tour in a day is quite enough, so think hard before you book a second one. We picked up the bus in Syntagma Square. The bus stop just outside Public is the one you want. There are several bus stops, but you want the one outside Public. And we were lucky enough to get at the seat at the front, which gave me a good view of Athens as we go round. This city tour is advertised as about 90 minutes, but with the infamous Athens traffic, I would say it took more like 2.5 hours. So if you're going round just to go on the bus, take water and be ready for that. You can also buy tickets as you get on the bus, particularly at the major stops, but I would recommend buying online first. It takes the hassle out of it. And even in September, we found these buses were really busy. We actually let the first bus in Syntagma go before we jumped on the second one. The first major site we see on this tour is that of Hadrian's Gate, a gate in the original city wall of Athens, completed in 131 BC for the arrival of Emperor Hadrian in Athens. And Old Athens was known as Old Athens, and it was separated from New Athens, which was known as Hadrian's Athens, by this wall. And behind this wall, we can see the Temple of Zeus, which was the largest temple in Greece, completed during Hadrian's reign after 500 years of construction. It had 103 columns in it and was one of the major sites within Greece. So after Hadrian's Gate, the Athenian city wall and the Temple of Zeus, we turn right up these beautiful narrow Athenian streets towards the Acropolis. And on the right here we can see coming into view the modern Acropolis Museum, opened in 2009 and housing approximately 4,500 artefacts from the Bronze Age through to the Roman period, cataloguing really the history of the Acropolis, the Parthenon and the Athenian city itself. It is one of the best museums in the world, one you must visit if you come to Athens. If you have any interest in Athenian history, classical Greek history, or Athens itself, it's one you must visit. And we continue up the hill towards the Parthenon itself, obviously the gem of the city, the one thing that everyone comes to Athens to see. And I have to tell you, when you get up there, it doesn't disappoint. But it's very busy. In ancient times, the olive trees surrounding the Acropolis were considered sacred. They grow in 12 groves, considered to represent the 12 gates in the walls of Athens. And the trees are believed to have descended directly from the original olive tree in Greece, which was believed to have grown on the top of the Acropolis and resulted in the naming of Athens after the goddess Athena. And here we see the Acropolis itself, beautiful and majestic, of ancient history, built of white Pentelic marble from Penteli Mountain about 25 kilometers away, and dragged here with carts and ropes to build this amazing fortress. And it was a fortress. Acropolis actually means high place, and it was a fortress itself in Athens, used to defend the city originally. As I said, even in September there are big queues to get on these buses, so be aware of that if you use it as a taxi. So here we are, we're at the Acropolis. I'm not going to go up to the Acropolis because there are loads of really good videos on the Acropolis on YouTube, and they're going to be much better than mine. But what I am going to do is give you my 5 top tips for the Acropolis. And they're all related to the weather really. But number 1, it's hot. Bring water. As we've just found out, people won't sell you water here because the water is a fixed price, 50 cents a bottle. And they don't want to sell you a water at 50 cents a bottle. They want to sell you Powerade or fruit juice at €5 a bottle. That's what they'll have. So bring your own water. Number 2, sunscreen. It's really hot, as I said. You need sunscreen. Put it on before you come. Bring it with you. Put it on during. Otherwise, you will be pink as a salmon by the time you finish. Number 3, there is no shade. So wear a hat. Any hat, but a hat. Really good idea. Number 4, walking. This is a place you have to walk. So wear comfortable shoes. If you're not great at walking, maybe you need to go somewhere else. I'm really sorry, but there's a lot of walking. And number 5, I would do your research beforehand. Know what you're looking at when you go up there, because it's a fantastic place. But if you don't know what you're looking at, it's a load of rocks really with a couple of placards by it. So do your research and it will really, really reward you. And I'm going to give you a bonus, number 6. When you're in Plaka and Monastiraki, watch out for pickpockets because they're everywhere.
I hope you enjoy.
So here we see the other bus tour you can do, Sights of Athens. I'm sure it's just as good. I think the route is very similar. I didn't see as many buses, so I suspect the city sightseeing tour that I did had more buses. But let's get back to the history of Athens. You can see the entrance to the Acropolis is extremely busy, even in September. So if you do go, anticipate a very long hot day up there, take water, etc. But the Acropolis, as we see it, was built by Pericles from about 468 BC. Pericles was the leader of Athens, and he was considered to preside over the golden period of Athens and classical Greek from about 460 to about 430 BC, when the Parthenon and the Acropolis really was built as we know it today. So we come back down the hill from the Acropolis through the famous winding Athens streets, which are beautiful in character, actually, I have to say, but they do change dramatically as you move across even the centre of Athens itself. And I think at this point, I'm just reflecting on the bus tour itself. This bus tour you need to use as a taxi service. You've got to hop on and hop off at most of the 15 points along the route in order to experience the things. You can see as we move around the city, you get a good view of the city, but you do not get to experience the sights and the sounds of ancient Greece in a way that you do if you get off and go by foot around the city. So I would recommend using this as a bus service, a taxi service, when it's working, because you can see here we've encountered the infamous Athens traffic, and I have to say it did grate a little bit on this tour, the stop-start. If it's not the traffic itself, and it took about 10 minutes to get back down from the top of the Acropolis through this traffic, then it's the traffic lights. This bus stops and starts all the time, and it was quite frustrating for that view. So I would be aware of that when you get this bus. This is not a smooth run round Athens bus tour where you can just sit back and relax and enjoy. As we come back finally down to the Temple of Zeus again, and we turn left up towards Syntagma. And that's another small point with this bus tour. I like this bus tour, don't get me wrong, but it does loop round on itself quite a bit because it has to deal with the Athens traffic and the routing of the Athens traffic. As we come back up into Syntagma Square, we can see on the right the Hellenic Parliament housed in the original royal palace. The palace itself was completed in 1843 and became the Parliament of Greece in 1934, where it has been so ever since. And there are 300 elected members of Parliament. There are elections in Greece every 4 years, and it's a symbol of democracy in Greece. It also houses the tomb of the unknown soldier. Outside and opposite the Parliament, we have many neoclassical buildings from the 19th century, which now house the embassies of numerous countries from the global community that we now live in. And as we continue up past the Parliament, we come to the Athens Botanical Gardens, which are a very large park and really well worth visiting. There's numerous things to see in these parks. And continuing on up, we come on the right to the Greek War Museum, inaugurated in 1975, and its purpose is to present the artefacts and history of war from a Greek perspective. And it certainly does that. It's well worth a visit if you want to understand modern Greece as it stands today. And on the right, the 1960s Athens Hilton comes into view. This had a dramatic effect in the 60s on society in Athens and high society in Athens. Its opening in 63 was attended by Aristotle Onassis, Frank Sinatra, Anthony Quinn, and it hosted a host of Hollywood celebrities during the 60s and defined the 60s era in Athens. And on the right, we see the newly opened National Gallery, refurbished and rebuilt. It opened in March 2021, and it hosts collections of post-Byzantine and modern Greek artists. And talking of Greek art, here we see another artist at the traffic lights, very skilled, I have to say, and hoping for a few pennies from the passing motorists for his trade and efforts. He was really good. So as we turn right here down towards the ancient Panathenaic Stadium, I was just struck at this point by the beauty of Central Athens. You can see it's very low rise, and it has many parks, and this combines to give it a unique character and light, which I think gives it a character that you just don't see in other European cities. The juxtaposition of the ancient Acropolis and the 60s buildings with these modern classical interpretations designed to fit into the character of the city itself, the 60s tenements here, and yet so much light and character and life to this city as we come down to the Panathenaic Stadium itself. The Panathenaic Stadium is another must-visit site in Athens, and one where there's another bus stop so you can hop off easily. The stadium itself was built on the original site of a simple racecourse in about 330 BC to host the Panathenaic Games. It was then completely rebuilt in marble in about 144 AD by Herodotus Atticus, who Attica, where Athens, the county where Athens exists, was named after. And at the time it had a capacity of about 50,000 seats. But by about the 4th century AD it was largely abandoned. The stadium was then excavated in 1869 and it hosted the opening and closing ceremonies for the first modern Olympics in 1896, where it was the actual venue for 4 of the 9 contested sports at the time. It was then again used as an Olympic venue in 2004 as the finishing point for the Athens Marathon. It is well worth a visit and well worth jumping off the bus to have a look at this site. And now we turn right onto what I believe to be one of the most amazing streets in Greece. Here on the left we can see the tennis club where Winston Churchill used to play tennis. And then we see the modern tram running around the centre of Athens, the Botanic Gardens, the beauty of Athens, and in the distance the Parthenon on the Acropolis, and then the Temple of Zeus. And then at the end we have the statue of Alexander the Great. So many things on one street, so many years of history, 3,500 years of history represented in the sites on one single street. Just amazing. Back in the Athens traffic again, and we can see Lycabettus Hill in the distance with a church on the summit, and to the right, uncovered during the construction of the Athens metro, the Roman baths. Large parts of the centre of Athens are pedestrianised, significant parts are pedestrianised, and if you can bear the heat, or if it's a cooler day, or perhaps it's not August, I would really suggest strongly getting out and walking around the centre of Athens. It's the best way to experience it, really. The bus is great for hopping on and hopping off, but if you want to see Athens, get out and walk, and you will see things that you just would not see from a car or a bus or a taxi. But here we are, we continue down, and this beautiful 1800s neoclassical building houses the Academy of Athens, the first institution in Greece dedicated to the sciences and humanities. You can stop off here from the bus and you can explore inside, where apparently the interiors and the exhibitions are absolutely amazing. And then as we continue up here, we see yet another pedestrianised street. All of these are linked. You can walk from here to the Parthenon without ever stepping onto a main road, so I really recommend it. This building here is the Library of Athens, the National Library of Greece, opened by King Otto and with a statue of him outside it. And the neoclassical, again, contrasting with the other architecture of Athens, gives it a unique flavour that you do not see in other European cities, even Rome. And as we continue on our bus tour, here on the right we see the Neoclassical Archeological Museum, housing ancient treasures of sculpture, pottery and art, representing the culture of the times. At this point I wondered if I was in New York, but turning on to Omonia Square, which has been recently renovated and reopened, I was reminded we're very much in Athens. Omonia is one of the major squares in Athens and has a bit of an infamous reputation for trouble, shall we say. It's not necessarily always been the safest place at night, but it's one of the major intersections in Athens for traffic and major streets and shopping. And here we see the very first Hondos centre in Greece. Hondos is the most famous shop perhaps in Greece for beauty products and so on, and where my wife loves to shop. So here again you can see Hadrian's Gate as the bus loops yet again around Central Athens. This is necessary if we're going to get to anywhere, I guess. And here again, we have the Roman baths uncovered during the construction of the metro in 2004. But it's inevitable, given the layout of the centre of Athens, that this bus tour is going to have to loop on itself several times to get to different places and see different sites. Whilst I very strongly recommend using this bus as a taxi service around Athens, I will say that when you're on it, there are always things to see, whether it's the Parthenon on the hill or a little Byzantine church by the roadside. There are always things to look at. And as long as you know where you're going, where the next stop is, what you want to do, when you want to get off, it's ideal for getting around Central Athens. Here we arrive at perhaps the most famous square in Athens, Monastiraki Square. And it's also probably, along with the Acropolis, the busiest bus stop. You will struggle to get back on the bus here. So what I would recommend is take the bus up to the Acropolis and then walk down to Monastiraki. It's about a 10-minute walk. It's very easy. You could do it the other way. You could get off at Monastiraki and walk up to the Acropolis, but then you're walking up a hill, and I would suggest walking down is easier. Monastiraki and Plaka for me are the absolute best places in Athens. It's where you should spend at least an afternoon exploring. My advice, go up to the Parthenon on the bus, get off the bus, see the Acropolis, then walk down to Monastiraki and Plaka. It's about 10 minutes. You walk past all these beautiful tavernas. You can stop for lunch if you want. But when you get down to Monastiraki and Plaka, that's when you shop. That's when you really explore. There are so many little side streets with little shops, amazing shops, amazing life, amazing vibrancy and atmosphere. And I just implore you to spend an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours in Monastiraki. You will not regret it. And after the heat of the Acropolis, you'll want to be down there where you can have a cold beer, a nice bite to eat, and the shade of the streets down there. And having left Monastiraki and continuing on our tour, we go past Athens Market, which really is just a continuation, I suppose, in a way of Monastiraki and Plaka, because it has a similar character. Loads of little shops, loads of little tavernas, etc. Again, a nice area in Athens to explore. Once again, we cross the beautiful, now beautiful, Omonia Square, and then as we come back towards Syntagma for a final time, where our bus tour will end. I hope you've enjoyed this, found it useful. I would recommend the bus tour, but as I said, hop on and off. If you've enjoyed this, please watch my other videos, subscribe and like, and I think I have a video on Plaka and Monastiraki coming up next. So if you're interested in that, please stay and watch that. Thank you.